last time we spoke, you were kind of on the fence about coffee. You had two trains of thought about whether it's good for us or not. You're now saying you think it's good for us.
Yeah, well, I must have given the wrong impression to you, but
Okay.
coffee is definitely a health food.
Interesting.
Okay. There are some people who don't tolerate it very well. They don't tolerate the caffeine, a few percent of people. But even if you have decaf coffee, it's decent quality because there's different ways of taking the caffeine out. All the studies are now showing consistently that you will have less heart disease and you'll live longer if you drink coffee and are having sort of between 1 and 4 cups of coffee a day. That seems to be the sweet spot. A bit more than that, you've probably got some problem. You know, that coffee is actually a fermented plant. So people don't think of it that way. They think, oh, it just comes in a jar, you know, I don't need to worry about it. But actually, you know, it comes off a tree, you get this pod, this bean, you take it off, you break it up, it then gets fermented on the floor of usually, you know, wherever it is in Africa or Asia, where it is, and it's humid, the microbes are working on it, breaking it down, then you go and dry it and roast it, and that ends up being the coffee we have. So the microbes are playing a role in that. It's also a source of fiber. So 3 cups of coffee gives you around 5 grams of fiber, which is about a quarter of your the average UK or US amount. So, you know, it's not the main source of fiber, but it all helps. And in the US, it's often the main source of fiber that they get. So polyphenols, the fiber, also for many people, it gets them awake and alert, has that effect of stopping tiredness. So if you're careful with it, you don't overdose on it, and you know it doesn't give you heart fluctuations, it's going to be actually beneficial for you long term. So this is a great example of a food that we've totally changed our minds on over the years. My first research paper I ever wrote was that coffee causes cancer. Okay, so when I was actually a medical student, and I was very proud of my paper, and this is great. And it was based on very poor studies done in the 1980s, and it was complete rubbish. So I'm very happy to go and correct that mistake and tell people that, you know, you should much better to drink coffee than say orange juice. And orange juice tends to be in the health section, and coffee definitely in the sort of recreational section. And they really should be changed over. Most orange juice we have is ultra processed, high sugar, very bad for most people. Coffee is good for the vast majority of people.
What else have you been wrong about? What else have you changed your mind about over the last couple of years because of the research that you now have, you know, the data you now have access to and the research that you've done?
Well, I was keen to avoid fats for a long time. I cut back on cheese because I thought that's high in saturated fats. That can't be good for you. I would have bought low-fat products before. And so that most doctors were indoctrinated with that. And many doctors are still in that mindset that fat is bad and carbs and starch are good. Drinking lots of water was good for you. And I now, having researched it for the book, know there's no hard data that you should be drinking 8 glasses of water, for example, a day, which is what most of the recommended government sites tell you. And obviously the drinks industry is very keen to support that because, you know, the big companies like the Cokes, the Pepsis have moved into the water business, and they're trying to sell everyone plastic bottled water, which is terrible for the planet. The idea that we're all deprived of hydration and having all kinds of problems with it is really made up. There's no hard evidence at all. And if you look at doctors who work on marathons, they see that far more people die or have health problems from overhydrating in the marathon race than dehydrating. So the human body is really good at some things. You know, you think about our ancestors, they kind of knew when you were thirsty, right? It's like, hang on, this is quite and the idea that, we've got no idea if we're thirsty or not. we need to be eating, have a stopwatch to tell us to drink every hour on the hour is obviously nonsense when you think about it.
That's so true. For my birthday just gone, someone brought me this massive, like, what's the way to describe it? Barrel water bottle. And it has like 8 liters marked on the side of it. And they said to me when they gave it to me, you need to drink that every day. And so the idea was that I put it on my desk as a reminder that I need to drink that whole barrel before I finish work.
No, I mean, you just think about it. Well, we've been evolving for millions of years, and, you can't live long without water. So clearly we've got a pretty good mechanism we've inherited to tell us when we need to drink water and when we don't. And I just think that's, again, marketing concept. All the soft drink, all this rehydration, these electrolytes, all this stuff, it's largely nonsense. And it's just, again, like the protein marketing idea is that, and we're very susceptible to it because we like a quick fix and there'll be a few people that say, I feel better when I drink lots of water. Sure, but the idea that we're so out of control that, someone needs to bring us water every hour is madness. And that there isn't this variation.
We got up to your lunch. So we did your breakfast. Sounded nice. Your lunch. What time do you typically eat lunch and what do you typically have on a 10 out of 10 day where everything's going to plan?
I mean, it all varies. And I think I don't want to give the idea I'm always having the same lunch because I do try and vary it. But if I'm on my own working, I'm not with friends or whatever, it would be a fairly quick affair and it would probably be a salad. And I would get a lettuce or a grated cabbage. I would throw whatever I have in the fridge in there and I would add some protein to it. So I would add some beans. I always keep cans of beans around. They cost nothing. They're a huge source of fiber and protein. Tip those in. There might be lentils. They might be chickpeas. Might be standard mixed beans. And I'd put them in. If I had some cheese, I might chop that up. Might put a bit of mozzarella in there. Olive oil, balsamic vinegar. That'd be it. And if I'd had some sauerkraut or something, I might have that on the side. A bit of ferment. And I've increasingly recently, since I've been doing more research on this, I might make my salad dressing actually with some fermented milk, some kefir. And you just mix up the oil and vinegar and you just, at the last minute, add in your ferment. So you're actually getting probiotics added to that. That if I'm on my own and I'm in a hurry, that's probably what,
you'd aim at.
Reasonable. But it would vary depending on what I was taking, what fruits, what vegetables, and I would have fruit afterwards.
What kind of fruit do you like? I noticed on my Zoe app that bananas rank incredibly low for me. I think my ranking on a banana out of 100 is 50. Now I've been eating bananas like a monkey. I've always thought bananas were just fantastic. So I thought unlimited bananas were a great idea until I saw the Zoe app and it said my score is 50 out of 100. Now I've eased up on the bananas and I'm having much more berries because I do really well for red berries in particular. In fact, the order that the Zoe app had fruits in is raspberries were number 1, cherries were number 2, strawberries were 3rd, then pears, then peaches, then apples, then kiwis, then blueberries, then grapes, and then bananas were like 10th, 50 out of 100.
Well, I scored even worse than you. You'd be pleased to know.
Oh, really?
So, I used to eat lots of bananas, and it was a thing you just put in your backpack, comes in its own packaging, you can have it when you want. I thought this is super healthy because I've seen, Roger Federer eat lots of bananas. He seemed pretty fit. And that's why we associated with a marketing thing. Oh, lots of potassium, must be good for us. Really lots of sugar, and they're not great for us. My score was about 30 or something. So I still have them occasionally because I, enjoy them occasionally, but I don't have them every day like I used to. So I now swap them out for pears. We have some great pears in this country and they're always good. Apples. And again, I'll have my berries if I've got them. So and kiwi fruits. I had to also give up grapes. I used to eat lots of grapes, and I used to love them, but get a huge sugar spike with grapes, which I know then would make me hungrier for the rest of the day. So, and I have them as a treat. Might have some grapes once a month. That's still fine. So I think we shouldn't ever say I'll never have those again. It's just like, what's your staple? What do you have most of the time? Should you be swapping that for something just as tasty or nice or a mixture of things? But get out of that rut just because someone told you that, banana's good, has potassium in it and make you play tennis better. It's that kind of mindset that we really need to change. And
I guess it depends what else is on the plate. I remember Frederica, who's the head of nutrition at Zoe, her telling me that the plate itself has its overall score. So if I had, maybe something that wasn't so good in isolation, but with a couple of other things that are really high ranking in terms of health and gut microbiome, then the overall score comes up. And it's really the average of the whole plate. Yeah,
it's exactly. The idea is we don't want to demonize one little thing. So you might be obsessed with mayonnaise, for example, and I'd say to you, well, you can have a small amount of mayonnaise if it's going to make you eat a salad. And if that salad is high fiber, nutritious, it's got plenty of good things in it, herbs and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Or, a tiny bit of ketchup or whatever, I'd still be saying, yeah, you can try something else instead of those, but don't get hung up about it. And I think it's absolutely true that, nutrition has gone into this idea of this is wrong, this gives you cancer, this is bad. And meat is a great example of that debate. People ask me, are you for meat? Are you against meat? And I've sort of changed. I flipped on this as the evidence has changed. I'm definitely against processed meats, ultra processed meats, which are low quality stuff put together in ready meals, etc. You'd be much better off just having mushrooms or beans instead of that mixed with it, a vegetarian version of it. But real high quality meat in small amounts, nothing really wrong with it, as long as you have enough space on the rest of the plate to make up for it.
What about the carnivore diet?
Well, I keep getting, probably like you, people come and say, I heard you talking about, not eating plants is bad, but I've been living for 2 years on the carnivore diet. I feel great, And I say, fine, there might be 1 in 10,000 people that can exist with zero fiber and zero plants. And, they're, in the near the North Pole, etc., there are people who exist on high fat and high protein diets. They've evolved for it. But vast majority of people will suffer greatly by having a denuded gut microbiome. And just eating meat is not what our ancestors did anyway. I've lived with the Hadza tribe for a week, and they eat a lot of vegetables and fruits and berries and nuts and seeds. And they still, meat is a treat. And 3 months of the year, they have no meat because it's hard to catch, but they've got all this other stuff. So the idea that it's natural, that's what we did, is really wrong. And some people might feel better briefly. There's a difference between how people respond to fats particularly and carbs. So you might lose a bit of weight. A lot of that's actually, they've done some studies showing people on high keto, high fat protein diets, they'd lose weight quicker, but a lot of it is water.
Oh, okay.
So they're sort of drying out. And in a way, sometimes bodybuilders do that to make them look more toned, but actually long term, they don't lose that and it comes back. And the main problem is their gut microbes are really crying out for food. So you're starving your gut microbes if you're just on a meat-only diet. So there's no evidence that is healthy, and lots of evidence that lack of fiber is really bad for you. So remember that statistic we went back to, just a 5-gram change in fiber. So if these people, so if the average is 20 grams a day and a carnivore diet person is on 5 or less, then we're talking 50% increases in heart disease and reduced longevity. So people do what they want, but the data absolutely doesn't support it.
Another thing that I have every day is chewing gum. And I was in the car because it's in the center console of the car that I'm driven around in, the Diary of a CEO car, we call it. And there's like 7 different types of chewing gum. Now, when I eat this chewing gum, there's this explosion of sweetness in the first couple of bites. And I was thinking the other day as I was driving, I think I'm becoming a little bit compulsive. Like, I didn't need the chewing gum for any other reason. And I think there's this, it's doing something in my brain. I grab it, I put one in, I throw it in the bin. I grab another, I put it in, I throw it in the bin. And I think I'm just doing it for that sugar burst. My question is broadly about chewing gum, but are these artificial sweeteners that exist in the chewing gums that I'm probably eating worse than just normal sugar?
They're better for your teeth.
Okay.
So you will get less tooth decay.
Yeah.
By having the artificial sweeteners. But most of them will be causing problems to your gut microbes.
Okay.
And not your mouth microbes as well. So anything you mess with in your mouth and your saliva, things like mouthwashes as well.
Yes.
These artificial ones. They're all shown to reduce your natural gut microbes and actually cause more problems so that you're more prone to infections and actually more prone to get overgrowth of bad microbes giving you bad breath. So, you have this initial hit, which, often the mouthwashes are similar in a way to that sort of instant gratification of the chewing gum because it feels fresh and tangy in your mouth, but you're often killing off the good guys that are protecting your mouth. And the worry I have is about this sweetness is that it's sensitizing you to want more sweet foods. So it probably make you hungrier for more carb foods later in the day. Mm-hmm. So I don't think there's anything particularly bad about chewing gum per se, other than if people chew a lot of it, it's sugary, it will give you more dental decay. But the artificial sweeteners are probably worse because they're having a negative effect on the gut all the microbes from your mouth down to your gut.
If you love the Diary of a CEO brand and you watch this channel, please do me a huge favor. Become part of the 15% of the viewers on this channel that have hit the subscribe button. It helps us tremendously, and the bigger the channel gets, the bigger the guests.